So I just want to know, what is the best fraternity?
Simsation Nation.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Simsation Nation. If this is your first time, I just want to say welcome. If you've never seen any of these previous episodes, please go back, dig into them. Hopefully there's something out there for you. I am bringing on a sensational subject today. It's something that has kind of been following me for a very long time, something that I've been thinking about for a very long time. I try not to live life with regrets. You know, I feel like how things happen is how things happen. But I will tell you, if I could probably back up and redo something, I would probably pledge in a fraternity. That's one of the things I will say I kind of wish I would have done. I don't regret not doing it, but I kind of wish I would have pledged in a fraternity. I see all of the camaraderie that fraternities they have, and when they are posting, you know, on the day that they were created, and they're wearing their shirts, and they're out of these conferences, and you know they're throwing up their fraternity signs and stuff like that, and I just kind of be watching. A funny story before I introduce my guest is, man, there was one time I was in a training job. And, you know, we were going through and I was kind of congratulating some people and stuff like that. And there's this one female that came up to me. And this is kind of embarrassing, but I'm going to go ahead and let it all out on Simsation Nation. It's been a long time ago, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. But she came up to me and she said, "Hey, excuse me, sir, are you Greek?" And I was like, "Huh?" And I was like, is she talking about like the Greek freak from the NBA? I like, you know, I don't know. Do I look like him? You know what I'm saying? I didn't even understand what she was asking me. And then she broke it down to me. She was trying to see if I had pledged in the fraternity. And the fact that I didn't even know the language, I was just like, you know what I mean? I got to do something about that. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, for me, I will tell you, I've had conversations with folks from various fraternities, you know, it's like, "Oh, you look like you would be a this," or "You look like you would be a that," so on and so forth. And I almost did it on a couple of occasions. I almost pledged the alumni chapter, which is a question that I want to bring up to my guest. So I brought on someone who I knew was extremely proud of his fraternity, someone who is a dear friend of mine, and also a editor on the Simsation Nation podcast, whether he wants to admit it or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show my dear friend, Mike Ward. Mike Ward, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? How's everybody doing?
Listen, I see all the time that you rep your fraternities, stuff like that. And when I asked you if you would come on to do it, I would imagine you were probably wondering, like, what am I going to talk about? You know, it's probably that fine line. You're like, I don't want to rep my fraternity too hard, and I don't want to bash the other fraternities and all that other stuff. So I'm going to ask you, who you repping? What's your fraternity?
Come on. The oldest, the coldest. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, 1906, all day.
Okay. 1906. Y'all see how he just spout those dates off like that? You know, I was about to ask him, like, hey, when did this fraternity kick off? But he just spouted off. Tell me about your fraternity, man. Tell me for the people that just don't know, you know, what it means to be in a fraternity. Those young men out there who might not even be finished with kindergarten yet. What's the name of your fraternity?
All right, so before I talk about Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, I have to let it be known, like, we're not the first fraternity ever created. We're the first in the Divine Nine, and that's the Pan-Hellenic Council. So there's 9 organizations, 5 fraternities, 4 sororities, and we are the first in that Pan-Hellenic Council. So Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was founded on the campus of Cornell University, Ithaca, New York, 1906, by 7 gentlemen: Henry Arthur Callis, Charles Henry Chapman, Eugene Kiko Jones, George Biddle Kelly, Nathaniel Allison Murray, Robert Harry Holden, Bernard Winston Taney.
So I would imagine some more prominent members too that are probably sitting in people's brain housing group right now folks that are out there that you could just name off? Like, you know, who are some people that you could name off and be like, hey, just so you know, so-and-so was a proud member of my fraternity?
Absolutely. And this is a great segue from Black History Month, because guess what they talk about every year in every school? There's a street named after this man in every city. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Oh yeah, by the way, whose real name was Michael. Some people may not know. His real name was Michael.
Wait a minute. I didn't know that. I just learned something.
Absolutely. His real name was Michael. His father was studying Martin Luther. So, of course, his father being in the church and things like that, they studied Martin Luther and that religion and things of that nature. So, yeah, so once he was doing his studies like that, he went from Michael to Martin Luther.
No kidding. I did not know. See, I'm learning something. See what I'm saying? See what fraternities do for you? They educate you so you can educate other people. He teaching me something, and I didn't even know this on Simsation Nation. Yeah. Hopefully everybody else just learned something too. So I got to ask you, man, you know, you at some point chose your fraternity. You said, you know what, I'm doing this or whatever. What made you choose the fraternity that you are a part of? And did you consider any other fraternities during that process?
Yeah, so this is the part where I highlight my father. My father, he was a member, Beta Epsilon chapter, North Carolina A&T, Fall 80. That's the most influential man in my life. And the reason why I'm a foot stomp this point is because I know people may see minorities and immediately think, oh, there's an absence of a father, which is why I love your video. I saw you and your son doing that episode. Yes, when you were talking about music. I love that. So my biggest influence was my father. He, between him just taking me around their events. When he would go to events, he'd take me with him. The conventions, district, the general, the regional. Whenever he would go to these conventions, he'd take me along, and also just being a product of the programs that he was a part of. Go to high school, go to college. Project Alpha, where they talk about things like sex ed and the importance of abstinence and the importance of, protecting yourself. And if you're going to do those things, make sure you're doing it the right way. That way you don't have any regrets. That's what we're talking about.
That's right.
So between my the love and respect I have for my father, and then the biggest turning point for me was when I was transitioning from middle school to high school, and then going into my sophomore year of high school. I went to this thing called, it just came. So every summer, they have this leadership conference, the Alpha Phi Alpha Leadership Conference. And so it's a bunch of teenagers, mostly high schoolers, that go to this conference. And the first one I went to was in 2004. I want to say it was on the campus of Clark Atlanta University. Now, granted, both my parents were in North Carolina A&T. Okay. So I've been going to homecomings. I've been going back and forth from A&T, from Reedsville to A&T, back when I lived in Reedsville, North Carolina. And then when I moved to Alabama, going back and forth from Alabama to Greensboro all my life. But it was something about actually being on the campus and walking around the campus of Clark Atlanta University and being involved with the activities that they had for us.
Right.
And you see these men, I hate to say this, but within my community, you didn't see a lot of Black role models. Mm-hmm. I lived in it was a predominantly white environment that I stayed in. So to be around so many influential men that look like me, that I could aspire to be like, it was a no-brainer. So between that leadership conference at Clark Atlanta and then going the following year when it was at Georgia Tech, man, I'm digging in some memories right now. Good. That's what we're gonna take a trip down memory lane with you. Absolutely. So that leadership. So another fun fact. So Offset from the Migos, he too was actually at that same conference at Georgia Tech in 2005.
No kidding.
That I went to. Yeah. So, this was before the
man.
Before the blow up. I mean, I was there with them. So
wow, that's see, to me that's just such deeply rooted foundational concepts that it seems that it instills in the folks that become members of these fraternities. I mean, you know, I've seen it firsthand, you know, the servanthood, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And speaking of servanthood, I didn't even mention the fact that this man's already on the podcast with me all the way from Germany, where he's supposed to be in the bed. You know what I mean? He's supposed to be sleeping right now, but he came on here to make this happen. So when it comes to the fraternities, though, from what you can say, and again, various audience members that watch and listen to these podcasts of various age groups, so on and so forth. But again, I am smart enough to know that, you know, there's certain things that can be said and certain things that cannot be said. But from what you can say, what does it take to get into a fraternity like yours? You know, because obviously they ain't just letting anybody walk in the door. You know, otherwise everybody would be in a fraternity.
Right. So it's no different than when you went to a recruiter. When you first joined the Marines, you went to a Marine recruiter. You didn't go to the Air Force recruiter. You didn't go to the Army recruiter. You didn't go to the Navy recruiter. You went to the component that you wanted to join. Joining an organization is no different. You don't blast on social media, hey, I'm gonna do this. No, you find the people who are within these organizations and you talk with them.
Right.
And from there, the change happens. So they may link you up with somebody else and so on and so forth. One person will give you a gym and another person gives you a gym, and from there you gain all the gyms. So, and the one tidbit of advice I give anybody aspiring to join the organization, besides the fact that you don't want to blast it out on social media or tell everybody outside of that organization, learn the history. Definitely don't come empty-handed. Like, come to them saying, hey, look, this is what I know about the organization. And also, what can you bring to the organization? Because it's not always about what the organization can do for you. What can you do for the organization? You know, some people, to each his own, what organization you choose and your reason why. But to me, going back to the previous question, my why is because the same way those gentlemen influenced me to go on and do great things and want to go to high school and go to college and join the military and go on and just accomplish the things I've accomplished. I wanted to pass that on. I wanted to pass the torch. The same way somebody passed the torch to me, I want to pass that to someone else. So that's if not the biggest reason, one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to join Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Okay. I dig that. And so I also like the analogy too, right? You know, you look at it from a military standpoint and, you know, someone may say, hey, I want to join the military. They might have that in their brain. That's no different than saying, hey, I want to join a fraternity. But then when it comes down to say, hey, I know I want to join the military. Now I got to decide what branch of service I want to join in the military. And you start linking up and reading about whatever branch of service sparks your interest. Same thing for a fraternity. I want to join a fraternity, but now I need to figure out which one. You start doing the history, learning what you need to do to join that fraternity. So what led you to walk into the Alpha recruiter office versus some of the other recruiting offices?
Honestly, because growing up, I didn't see those other organizations as active as the Brothers of Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Like, literally all the programs I listed earlier, just the Alpha Leadership Conference, the Go to High School, Go to College Project, Alpha, boldest people as a hopeless people. Like, you see these people in action. So of course they're like, hey, I want to do this. Now, granted, I have family members that are Omegas, that are Kappas, and I even have some cousins that are a part of sororities as well. But when you see it live, it's different. It's very different when you see the person. All right, I'll say you love football. Yeah, I know you're a huge Georgia fan.
Absolutely.
Fan,
Let's go. Absolutely.
It's a whole lot different when you see a game in person versus when you see it on TV or playing it on Madden. The feeling is different. It's different.
Facts.
So
that's a fact.
For me, growing up, either I was always seeing the Brothers of Alpha in action, or the people I was around, even the people I went to high school with, even the people I was in college with. If they weren't alphas at the time, they later on became alphas. I was always wanting to emulate men that either were alphas or became alphas. So it was a no-brainer. It was really a no-brainer for me.
You know, that's the first time I think, at least on this podcast, I can say that being a product of your environment is a good thing, right? Because we talk about being a product of your environment in a negative connotation quite often, but you don't often hear it, kind of like what you mentioned about, fathers being present or not. You don't often hear how being a product of your environment is influential in a positive way. So I like hearing that because it's kind of like, people that grow up in Georgia, they start putting Georgia shirts on their children when they're just infants, same thing for the fraternities. And that's just what you grew up with. That's what you learn to love. And so eventually, people go off and they go do those things. So for that young person that's out there watching and or listening right now who hasn't even finished learning how to draw a complete circle yet, what are the benefits? Like, what are the benefits of joining a fraternity? If you were in the elevator right now, you're getting ready to head up and somebody says, hey, I got my little son right here I want him to join a fraternity one day. What are the benefits? What would you give him?
Oh man, so I'm gonna start off with a military analogy first. So it's no different when you're going from one base to another and you have a sponsor, the one that's supposed to kind of show you the ropes. Hey, look, you want to live in this area, or you pick up these items from this location, or you don't want to stay here. The networking, the great, is the travel agent versus the tour guide perspective. Like when you have somebody who's not only just going to tell you about what's happening around you, but actually be there to walk you through it. Perfect example, I'm out here in Germany. When I first got out here, before I even signed my name into the base, at the airport, I met a brother who was wearing the letters Alpha Phi Alpha. Talked with him, he linked me up with the rest of the brothers.
Wow.
By the time I got here, I already had my tribe. I was trying to figure out the right name to use.
Wow.
But everybody needs a tribe. Like I don't care who you are, you didn't make it to where nobody that's successful is going to say, I made it here alone. Everybody had a tribe, everybody had a support system.
That's right.
And Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated has been that support system for me everywhere I've been. Speaking of regrets, and this is going to be a recurring thing. The only regret I have up to this point is that I wasn't more involved when I was at one of my previous duty stations. When I was located in San Antonio, Texas, when I was a flight commander in basic military training, one of my biggest regrets was that I was so immersed into work and everything else that I didn't make time. Notice how I said I didn't make time.
Sure. Not that I didn't have time. I didn't make time.
I sacrificed, hey, I want to focus on these things more than, doing the service in San Antonio. So those are some great brothers out there. I wish I could have did more during my time out there. But yeah, that's what I tell them. I was like, look, it takes a village. It takes a village. So
I was literally about to use those exact words. That's how I know great minds think alike. I was about to say, it sounds to me, when you gave me the, arriving to Germany analogy, all I could think about was the fact that, boom, you didn't even have to search for your village because the village was already in existence. They just had to welcome you into a new area of your village, which I think is pretty dope, right?
Absolutely.
For me, I think that's amazing. Now, I almost feel embarrassed asking you this question because, first of all, you don't even have to answer it if you don't want to. If you want to say, no comment, or whatever you decide to answer, because it's actually quite rhetorical. You know what I mean? It's quite a rhetorical question. So I just want to know, what is the best fraternity?
You already know what I'm about to say, but I'm going to throw a curveball. I'm going to say the best fraternity is the fraternity that fits you the most.
Ooh.
I'm going to throw you a curveball. So everybody notice there's a fraternity for everything. There's probably a video game fraternity somewhere. There's band fraternities, there's military fraternities, there's a fraternity for everything. There's probably a fraternity in the metaverse. There's a fraternity for everybody. So, and some people may feel like, hey, that's just not my thing, and that's perfectly fine. But I would say the best fraternity is the one where you feel like you can be yourself, you feel like you can they bring out the best in you, and you can bring your best to them. I would say that's the best fraternity. With that being said, the best fraternity is none other than Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
Oh man, you just threw me for a loop, because I was expecting what you said on the second half of your answer to be the only answer, but that first part of your answer, that was pretty good, man. That's pretty dope. That's a good answer right there. So I gotta talk about all aspects of fraternities, and this is speaking from someone that doesn't have the experience, right? So, dues. There's some stigma out there. I've heard people say it, whether you're talking sororities or fraternities. I've heard people say, I don't need to buy my friendship. I don't need to buy my village. I'm not going to pay all that money. Why do I need to pay all this money to have a title and then boom, to boom, to boom? I do know that dues are a topic of discussion for people that are in fraternities, people that are considering fraternities, so on and so forth. So I don't necessarily want to ask you, like, how much do you have to pay for dues? But is it significant enough to be a concern? And are there other aspects of being in a fraternity that are not as glamorous?
So I would say this, it's work. I mean, you got to maintain the house somehow. Like, to do all these things in the community, it's not free. It's literally community service. It's not like we're getting paid to do some of these things, so it has a cost.
Everything costs.
Everything has a cost. Like, everything has a price tag. So, of course, we pay dues to keep this train going, so.
I like that answer. And that actually takes me to my next question, which was going to be the community involvement. One thing that I can say for certain is that every fraternity and or sorority that I have seen is very heavily involved in the community. It's almost like this is part of your obligation for signing up. This is what you signed up for. And it's not like everybody's dragging their feet and they're upset or mad when they're out there doing community service. They're doing it willingly and they're doing it joyfully. Tell me about some of the community involvement you've been able to participate in.
Oh man, so that same leadership conference that made me who I was, or made me want to join the organization. I volunteered there. I've been a chaperone. Of course, I've done photography and videography, not only just for that event, but for other events as well. That's usually my go-to. Like, anytime I come to an organization, I try to find, all right, what holes need to be filled. If they don't have somebody who can capture or document these things that we're doing, then I'll step up and say, hey, I'll grab the camera, take the pictures, edit the videos, put together our video of the year for chapter of the year, things like that. In addition to, of course, the basic. Of course, I'm not gonna say the basic stuff, but in addition to the cleanups, restoring homes, helping out in the community,
right,
building homes and giving out food,
being productive members of society. It sounds like.
1,000%.
That's the same thing if you were in the church. Everybody's got a talent, right? Everybody's got something that they can do. Everybody's got some type of skill that they can do to contribute to the overall output, right?
Absolutely. And even speaking of the church, when I was an usher, I had to pay dues. So this thing is a part of the maintenance, keeping things going.
I dig it. So I want to ask you something off the script. Not like we really use a script anyway, but I see the shirt that you're rocking right now. Tell us about the shirt.
Absolutely. So since we're talking about fraternities, this is the podcast that we do. It's Buffet, for those that can't read, BUFFET, Brothers Unified for Freedom, Evolving Together. 5 out of 6 original members are members of our fraternity incorporated. Matter of fact, we all cross the same time. So all of us are Spring 14 initiates of Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Dope. Listen, I ain't gonna lie. So far, you've educated me. I hope this is gonna be educational to everyone else out there too. So, obviously you got your organization that you're a part of, that you're contributing to. Not just that, but the community as well. You've got the villages that just take care of each other. Iron sharpens iron, right? And I think being a part of that is absolutely amazing. Anything else you want to leave with the audience?
Man, I had so much. I would say that I'll go back to find your tribe, find your village. Everybody has their own individual journey. Don't necessarily do something because your friend's doing it, unless y'all have y'all have the same goals, y'all have the same paths, and they're just running parallel. All right, cool. But ultimately, do what you feel is in the best interest. Do what's in your best interest. Do what aligns with your purpose and what you feel you were put on this earth for. We all have a different assignment. You know, we don't have the same. We don't have the same assignment. We serve in the same branch, have the same AFSC, but we have different assignments.
That's right. That's right. Find your assignment. Whatever your assignment is, find your assignment. I dig it. Listen, you've helped a lot of people out there today, and I think that this may be useful to lots of people in the future, you know, when it comes to trying to figure out what extra can they do while you're just going to college, right? How can I become a better person? So you may actually sway somebody, one, to join a fraternity, but two, join a fraternity like...
Alpha Phi Incorporated, y'all know what it is.
The Alpha's gonna go crazy when they see this one right here. Hey, listen, you know what time it is now. Before we wrap up this show, I gotta go through my 10-question speed round to see what kind of preference an alpha man has. So I'm gonna blast these 10 questions out. You just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. So number one, I know you're very familiar with the great state of Georgia, so I know you know what grits are. Would you prefer to eat your grits with sugar or salt and pepper?
Salt and pepper.
Okay. Are you a football man or basketball man?
Football.
Read a book, watch a movie.
Watch a movie.
Okay. Lift weights or take a run?
Lift weights.
Okay.
I hate running.
None of these above is a good answer. Whiskey or beer?
Whiskey. I hate both. I'm not a fan of either, but if I have to, whiskey.
Okay. Phones, iPhone or Samsung or Android?
iPhone all day.
All day. Vacation, beach or mountains?
Beach.
Jeans or slacks?
I'm gonna go slacks. I'm getting older now. I'm still trying to mature my wardrobe, so I gotta bust the slacks.
You ain't got to be old to wear slacks, you know.
I'm trying to be more
grown man stuff. Okay, I hear you. Speaking of grown man, Batman or Spider-Man?
Oh man, Batman. But I will say the Marvel universe, Marvel all day. But as far as superheroes, Batman is top tier. Batman is in the upper echelon.
I tell you what, I got the episode just for you. It's coming out before this month is over. It's about movies, and I brought my buddy on. He knows everything there is to know about movies, so he made a comment about Marvel on there. Last but not least, because you told me you're getting older, you know, not old, just older and wiser. Would you prefer jazz or would you prefer blues?
I'm gonna go jazz.
Go with jazz. Smooth jazz. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you right here on Simsation Nation to my guy, Mike Ward, and editor of Simsation Nation podcast, representing his fraternity today. Mike, thanks for taking some time to just kind of share your experiences and hopefully just be an impact to somebody that's out there listening.
Absolutely, no problem. Also, somebody you had on this podcast before, Brigadier General Terrence Adams, member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Also, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Charles Q. Brown, member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
Hey, listen, I have a wish list of folks for Simsation Nation podcast. I have 3 names on there. He is one of those names, and him being an alpha man. I will also tell you that I have someone that has said that they will come on in the summer, who you know very well is also alpha man, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. 4-star General Anthony Cotton.
General Cotton, member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a trend. The other fraternities, you know, y'all might just shoot me a note if you want to get on here and represent yours, you know, but right now the alphas, they're doing what alphas do. Hey, thanks for dialing in, everybody. I appreciate you. Until next time, I'm out.